Hello, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, can you imagine every single student failing their university entrance exam? Well, that's exactly what happened in Liberia. So how did this happen and who's to blame? Our digital producer Malika Blau is here looking out for your live feedback. A little bit challenging though today because we're talking to Liberia and our social media community in Liberia. Well, how much access do they have to the internet? Not much, it's a luxury. Electricity, also a luxury, intermittent. That's tough.
It is. It's no small feat. But we are hearing from Liberians in the diaspora and others who are expressing disbelief, and they're also sending in suggestions like this one on Facebook from Max, who says Liberia needs to adopt some new technologies that make education for a student exciting rather than a burden. Now, of course, today we'll explore whether that's easier said than done in a country that's still trying to rebuild after years of civil war. But we want to hear from you. So tweet us your thoughts, your comments, your questions with hashtag AJStream.
Now, some of you streamers, you already know this, but for those of you who don't, our program, it really depends on you joining in. We love hearing about stories happening in your communities. So if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover, really easy to get in touch with us directly. Just go to our About page at stream.aljazeera.com/about, which is where I am right now. Scroll down a little bit, you will find my Twitter handle, Malika's Twitter handle, and more importantly, our producer Twitter handles. You can pitch us an idea and it could turn into a future show. Liberia received a failing grade in August when all 25,000 of the country's high school students failed to pass the state university entrance exam. Now, you had to receive a minimum of 50% on the math section and 70% on English. Only 300 students passed math, and not a single person met the minimum requirement for English. No one expected them to be part of the freshman 2013 class, but the University of Liberia agreed to allow 1,600 of those failed students to enter on probation for remedial courses when classes began last week. So, how will they manage and what can be done to get the country's education system back on track? Joining us to talk about this on the phone, we have Michael Slawan. He's Director General of the National Commission on Higher Education. In our Google Plus Hangout, we have Robtel Paley. She's a Liberian writer and independent researcher. Dobo Jala is an exam proctor for the University of Liberia. And James Colley is a student in the remedial program at the University of Liberia. It's great to have everybody in the stream. Let me start with Dobo Jala, exam proctor. Dobo, did you have any idea the kind of trouble that you would cause by administrating the entrance exam in a very different way this year?
Well, I mean, I expected that it was going to be a challenge because people had gotten very accustomed to the status quo, which was either due to favoritism or exchange of monies, you know, to ensure that their names came up. This was something that was very prevalent in the society. That was, in fact, the primary reason why the university contacted me in the very first place, because they wanted the exam to be administered in such a way that the integrity of the exams will be restored and the credibility of the university will also be enhanced. So right from the get-go, I knew it was going to be a very daunting task. But I mean, what more can one do? I mean, more than helping to build his country. So I took on the challenge, and when the results came out, I was a bit shocked because I thought that, you know, we would have had better performance than we actually did. But then we presented them to the faculty senate, and here we are.
I just want to get a sense of, if I was taking the exam last year, what the circumstances might have been different. So I could have paid to get my grade higher, or I could have known maybe a university lecturer and got into the university that way. I just want to get a sense of the kind of practices that you were stopping.
Well, there had been indications that the people were paying money to get their names out on the exam results. So rather than exert yourself or work hard, there was no incentive for those kinds of things anymore. People would just pay money and then their names would come out. There will be those who are very well connected in society. They too would just use their contacts and their links. So in effect, it wasn't really largely based on merits anymore. It was based on how well connected you are or how deep your pocket is.
Okay,
and those were the challenges. Yeah, those were the challenges that we set out, the primary challenges. There were several others, but those were the key ones that we set out to tackle.
All right.
Well, Femi, one of the things that I'm noticing online after this broke and until now is this sense of disbelief that this could be true. On Facebook, Thomas says it's impossible and beyond human imagination that 25,000 students sit a test and then all fail. So other people weighed in on why this could be true. Mimi says it's due to poor high school foundations. Marcus says it's an example of the obvious outcomes from a corrupt system. But James, I want to go to you because you were one of those students. This sense of disbelief, is that what you were feeling right after you found out?
Well, I certainly don't want to believe that that the 25,000 plus students that sat the entrance failed miserably. I have a deeper view when it comes to that. I feel that there are some students who are very bright. There are some students that come from great institutions here. And we have in our national exam, which is the WAEC, the West African Examination Council, you have students who went Division 1, Division 2, and these students sat the entrance. But to get to the utmost surprise of the public, the result came as a shock that out of the 25,000 persons that sat the entrance, not even one made a pass. So I was shocked. It came as a surprise to me.
Okay, so Mike, I want to bring you into the conversation. I'm just going to share a quote with you from the Minister of Education in Liberia. You're part of this ministry. She says, for a whole group of people to take exams and every single one of them to fail, I have my doubts about that. It's like mass murder. Michael, as the Ministry of Education, as a member of that ministry, what did you make of this situation? I mean, it's very damning for the entire education system in Liberia.
Yeah, well, from the Ministry of Education, particularly higher education perspective, we are still trying to figure out what happened, because everybody is interpreting the failure of the students in different ways. We want to know what is the student core group that the examination was administered to. Were they recent graduates? Were they people that have graduated from 4 or 5 years back? I mean, we don't know this. Is our school failing the youth? Or are the youth not studying to pass exams?
So, Michael, how did President Salif
until we get a concrete fact from a well-defined research, we'll not be able to say this is the reason why the students flunk the exams.
All right, so how did President Johnson Sirleaf get involved? Because the university said, we are not going to be swayed by emotion, we're not going to let these students in. And then I understand that President Johnson Sirleaf, she intervened. How did that happen?
Well, we know President did not intervene. She wanted to know, the President wanted to know what was the reason. How did the people do? She went and saw the text. I was not in the room, but according to the President of the university, and people believe it was a fair test. We don't know why people fail. We don't know the core group that the examination was administered to. That's one reason. Some people have graduated from high school some years back, and they came to try their luck. Secondly, those who took the exams have been condemned by the West African Examination Council already. What do I mean? At the University of Liberia and any of our institutions of higher learning, if you score Division 1 or 2 in the West African exam, you cannot take university exam.
All right, Michael, let me make this simple for our audience because they're not aware of this exam. It's like Michael, hold on one moment.
Who's taking it?
Michael, hold on one moment. Let me just explain it for our audience who are watching. There's an exam that you take as a high schooler that preps you ready for university, so that if you pass this exam, then it means that you're actually ready for the university entrance exam. So the results of the high school exam didn't really actually work out with the entrance to the university exam. Now, Michael, you said you didn't know why the students failed, but your president, Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf, she actually just summed it up quite beautifully. She said the result is alarming. It tells me that the educational system is a mess. Let me bring in Robtel Paley here. Robtel, you've taught at the University of Liberia. Has your president got it right?
I think to a certain extent, but I certainly wouldn't say it's a mess. I wouldn't use those terms. It's definitely in decay and it's definitely challenged. And I think particularly because the foundation has not been set. We've gone through 15 years of civil war, even longer in terms of civil crisis and upheaval. And I think it's going to take more than a decade, certainly, to bring the system up to the standards that we need to set it to. So I think it's an incredible challenge. It's an incredible clarion call to everyone, the parents, the students, the teachers, the ministry, the national government, the legislature, to say, okay, so this has happened, what can we do about it, without asking questions about why it happened or how it happened. I think for me, when I heard the news, I just went into action mode immediately. I picked up the phone and I started calling people in Liberia and asking them, okay, what do we need to do to fix the situation? Having taught not only in the University of Liberia, but also particularly in the education, in the English department, I realized that there are serious challenges. I mean, students find it difficult writing simple sentences. Looking at literature, books, and being able to reading comprehension is a challenge. Being able to write, being able to critically analyze essays, being able to critically analyze texts, I think is a challenge. So I think to question whether or not it's happened or why it's happened, I think is definitely not the way to go. I think what we need to do is shift gears and start talking about some of the solutions. Okay. How do we fix the problem? Because the problem is there. Right. And I think the exam is emblematic of that.
Okay.
So Dorbor, you heard Robtel mention some of the serious challenges. Our community is also picking up on a few of them. Elton on Facebook says, students are eager to learn, but there are no facilities. There are no teachers because they don't pay teachers. Liberia has a very bad education system with no labs, no modern equipment. So you're hearing a lot of critiques there, Dorbor. How valid are these, and what are the challenges on the ground, infrastructure-wise, teachers, pay-wise, that play into some of this?
Yes, it definitely plays into that. I mean, in addition to Robtel's experience, I myself am a classroom teacher. I've been a classroom teacher most of my life, and I see the problem. In our education sector, there are issues, and the contributor on Facebook there is exactly right. Most of our schools in this country don't have labs, they don't have libraries, they don't have resources. I mean, nothing. I had the opportunity of traveling around the country a couple of months back. I was doing another investigation, and we visited the Southeast. And what was there, in the name of schools, left a lot to be desired, because these were just, 4 poles standing up with a roof on top, a makeshift roof, and that was supposed to be the school. Absolutely nothing else. I mean, the blackboards were tattered, and there were broken pieces of wood that had been fixated on the wall. So if this is what the schools are, then again we have a problem of teachers, of qualified teachers. Yes, a lot has been done since the inception of the two administrations of President Sirleaf, but there's still a lot of challenges. We don't have qualified teachers. We don't have qualified resource people. We don't have the infrastructure. So it's a very big challenge. And all of this culminates into the poor performances, of the candidates on the exams.
Okay, so Dobo, I've been to Liberia a couple of times. I love being in Liberia. I love Liberians, but you only have to go to the University of Liberia campus in Monrovia to see that it's really difficult to study. The stacks, the library stacks, there are no books. The internet, it's kind of intermittent. So James, I want you to help me paint the picture of how you're managing to study. Do you have power at home? Do you have electricity at home, James?
No, I don't.
Okay, so how do you study at home? How is that possible?
Well, a couple of months back, I used candle, but now I use Chinese light.
So is it a gasoline lantern that you're using to study?
No, battery.
A battery light.
Yeah,
okay.
Chinese light.
And do you have
previously used candle?
Okay, and how about internet? Because that's really helpful. I know when I was studying, being able to get online, to get resources electronically, that's really helpful. What do you have? You're laughing.
Well, from where I stay, in Bartnellsville, you don't have any facility as such. Before you can check your mail, you have to travel from Bartnellsville to Monroeville. That is from Bartnellsville to Monroeville. You can check your mail. There's no internet facility, nothing of that kind you find in the area that I live. So what I normally do when I want to check my mail, I sometimes go at the US Embassy, or I sometimes go at a cafe when I have.
And even getting to university, I know you're in the remedial class right now, before you can even be accepted as a freshman. Take us through your journey from home to university. How does that happen? We're talking about the challenges of the internet in Liberia, and we've lost James. So we're feeling it too. Go ahead, James. We got him back. Great. Tell us about your journey, James. Okay, James.
I live in a particular area called Kebai, Bartnellsville, Kebai, and from Kebai to the pavement, it takes you like 15-20 minutes because the road is in an appalling situation. Sometimes I even have to walk to get to central town to get to the pavement. Now, when you get to the pavement, you have to get on board a vehicle. It becomes a very difficult task to get on a vehicle. Sometimes you have to fight. Sometimes you get dirty up, and people can get on the bus. Okay. Now, when you get on a bus, it becomes another problem again, the traffic. Sometimes from Bartnellsville to Monroeville, it takes you about 3-4 hours in the traffic on the Somalia.
3 or 4 hours. Okay, James, you've painted this picture for us. It's a painful one. It shows how dedicated you are to even literally get in to study at university. Malika?
And that picture is why someone on Twitter, Sally, who says, this is a state of emergency. The government should declare a state of emergency in the education system and ensure harsh punitive actions on corrupt officials. So he weaves in two things there. But Rob Tell, I want you to pick up on this next one, because earlier Femi brought up the president, and you said you don't agree that this is a mess of a situation, which were President Sirleaf's words. But Abdullah on Facebook says, her remarks must herald urgent action, meaning increased budget, reform, regulations, better facilities. How do we even go about getting there?
I think one of the things that I've been thinking about sort of in the past few months is, this notion of minimum standards, that we have to set standards. I think in Liberia too often we settle for mediocrity, right? So this again is an alarming trend, and the 25,000 mass failure is an indication to us that perhaps what we need to do is not only set minimum standards, but set standards just generally. Set standards in how we allocate money in the budget for education. It should be, for me, at least 30% of the budget should be allocated for education. I think donors also have to step up to the plate and realize that they have a part to play, that they have to ensure that the agenda set by the government to increase education budget money is sort of matched by them, that they can't just say, okay, primary education is important without thinking about tertiary education. Obviously, it's the tertiary education institutions that will feed into the job market. I think the teachers have to set standards so that students feel like they have incentive to do well. I remember when I was teaching at the University of Liberia, often students complained that my standards were too high, that I expected them to come to class on time, that I expected them to read the material before coming in, that I expected not to spoon feed them everything. I think the students also have to set standards for themselves and say, you know what, I can exceed the expectations of my situation. I can exceed the expectations of my nation. I can exceed the expectations of my teachers by doing well, by studying hard, by asking questions when I have trouble, by going to my parents and saying I need a little bit of extra help.
Right.
I know the challenges are there, but I think there are students in the University of Liberia who've graduated and are doing remarkably well. How? because they were able to push the agenda, because they were able to realize that, yes, we're in a really challenged situation, but we really do have to push forward and make a move and do things differently.
Okay, so Rob Tell, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is obviously Liberia's civil war. So it's a decade since that war ended. And Michael, nobody is underestimating the challenge of getting Liberia back on its feet. But with a country with 60% of young people, the fact that they're uneducated or ill-educated, that is a major issue. In terms of your job as part of the Ministry of Education, how are you tackling it?
Thank you very much. I totally agree with Rakte. But let me say this. Liberia was, quote-unquote, a failed state. We have come a long way. And there are priorities for the government to accommodate. The same argument we are making here for education, we believe health ministry will make the same argument. We believe energy sector. We believe infrastructure and security. They will advance that. So what I'm saying, limited resources is divided among priorities that are very necessary for
So Michael, where is education on the list? Where is the priority for your youth and your future of Liberia? Where does that come? Does that be before health, or is it at the bottom of the list? We're just going to wrap up here very quickly and move to the post show. So I just want to get a sense of where the priorities are for Liberia. Is it education or not?
Education is one of the priorities among priorities.
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about.
We
have education.
All right.
We have, even if you want me to rank them, I will rank education, I will rank health, I will rank security.
Education, health, security. All right, so I'm going to ask you to pause for a moment. So we have as our priorities in Liberia, education, health, security, and we have a generation of young people who are not well educated on the whole. This is a conversation we are taking to our post show at stream.aljazeera.com. To be continued, don't miss it. But right now, here's Malika with some of the other stories that we're following on the stream.
Benjamin Netanyahu has given his first interview to a Persian language media outlet, but a comment on clothing has Iranians mocking the Israeli leader. In the interview with BBC Persian over the weekend, Netanyahu said Iranians deserve better than their current leaders, and that if the Iranian people had their way, they'd be wearing blue jeans, they'd have Western music, they'd have free elections, and they'd be free to choose whoever they want. Well, netizens were quick to respond using hashtag #IranJeans to share photos of themselves wearing denim and listening to music. Someone tweets, "We all wear jeans and we all listen to Western music, but it's our country and we do what we want." Next, we head to Morocco, where 3 teens have been released following their arrest for posting a kissing photo on Facebook. A couple and their friend who took the photo are to stand trial Friday for public indecency. The arrest outraged many Moroccans who staged a sit-in outside the juvenile detention center in the city of Nador. Online, others used the hashtag #FreeBoussa or #FreeKiss to express their solidarity with teenagers. And finally, we head to India, where politician Chandrababu Naidu is fasting in protest against the formation of the new state of Telangana. In August, this stream covered the decision of India's Congress to form the new state. And since then, Naidu has argued against the split, and his decision to publicize his fast in the country's capital has reignited discussion online. Rajesh tweets, "Good or bad, at least Naidu knows where to fast. Delhi is a correct place to attain the center's attention." Well, are you in India? We want to know what you think, so tweet us your thoughts with hashtag AJStream. Femi?
Thanks very much. We have an India theme going on right now on Al Jazeera across the entire network. So we're continuing the theme tomorrow. I love this story. It's mind-boggling, the sheer numbers of the story. So let me tell you about what we're doing on the next show. So we are going to be discussing the largest welfare system in the world. The Food Security Bill will ensure that almost 800 million people will have food virtually for free. But it's controversial, and we'll find out why. Stay with us. The post show is next at stream.aljazeera.com. We'll see you online. Thanks for watching. Hello again, this is the Streams Post Show. We're continuing our discussion on Liberia's failed education record and what is being done to fix it. With me to discuss this, Michael Sloan, Director General of the National Commission on Higher Education, Robtel Paley, Liberian writer and independent researcher. Dobo Jala is an exam proctor at the University of Liberia, and James Colley is a student in the remedial program at the University of Liberia. We've been focusing on the University of Liberia, but I want to take you across to Dr. Elizabeth Davis Russell. She's the president of Tubman University, also in Liberia, and we talked to her earlier, and she gave us some really interesting insight into what the Civil War has been doing and has done for the youth and the education system in Liberia. So she says, when you look at Liberia and other post-conflict nations where the infrastructure is destroyed, the country grapples with competing priorities. Do we rebuild roads? Do we rebuild water systems? Do we rebuild electricity, etc.? And oftentimes it's what takes precedent over rebuilding the lives of the people. So do you remember when Michael said the priorities? It's one of the priorities of the priorities in Liberia. So you have the priorities being security, health, education. He didn't list them in which order. Robtel, I know you had a comeback for that. What was it?
I did. I think, in 2007, when we were touring different parts of Liberia, all the 15 political subdivisions, people had a list of priorities. And unanimously, Liberians agreed that roads, education, and health were their major priorities. Those are the sectors that the government should invest the most in. Those are the sectors that the donor community should invest the most in. Those are the sectors that Liberians should pay the most attention to. So I think to even think about asking questions about priorities, I think is unfair, because the Liberians have already said unanimously what they think priorities are: is education, it's health, and it's roads. So that for me is very clear. And we often talk about capacity building being a priority because we can't achieve post-conflict reconstruction without building the capacity of Liberians. So again, that mantra is there about building the human capacity, building the capacity for people to do well and thrive, and realize their full potential. And education is definitely the bedrock of that. So for me, it's clear, it's glaringly clear what our priorities should be.
Okay. Michael, is your budget big enough?
Yeah, I mean, once we have identified, according to Ratte, and which of course I know, we have identified our priorities. But accommodating the priorities and where we are. You listen to Dobo Jala. He said he toured the country right after the exams, and he saw exactly what was in the roster. Nothing. You see shacks. You see a school building with no chalk. You see no furniture, no chair. So what kind of learning environment can you pair this with in Liberia or with any other country? So we have difficulties in this country because of the war that we went through. So we are saying, Ratte said, we should look for a way now to fix what has been damaged. So no more excuse. That's what we are doing now. We have come a long way, and we are doing the best we could. Look at, we have given that education. We have a reform policy. We have given the reform education agenda. We have written an act that we are coming into a new dimension. So all of those things we have correctly republished. The TTR, the Rural Teacher Training Institutions, I think they are about 3. And government has established community colleges that these young people will stay home and qualify themselves before they come to university.
And yet
So
still you have 25,000
and coming to take exams at the university. It was problem for them. We know it was problem.
But this is, this exam is extremely revealing, guess. It's extremely revealing because once you crack down on corruption, once you cut down on the favoritism, it's telling me that actually who deserves to be in university in Liberia? What is the standard of education? That is a huge question mark and a huge wake-up call. Malika, what is the community saying?
Well, what's interesting is that a lot of our community members are saying this isn't unique to just Uganda. The circumstances of this test definitely are. But
right, Liberia.
Excuse me.
But you were
Liberia.
thinking about Uganda.
I'm looking at a tweet about Uganda.
Yes.
But the circumstances of being a post-conflict country are not specific to Liberia. So in Uganda, this tweet says, thousands fail the law school university pre-entry exams, while out of 1,300, only 290 passed the pre-entry bar exams. We also got a tweet from Sri Lanka. Sashi says, in Sri Lanka, 200,000 plus students sit for the university exams there, but only 20,000, excuse me, are eligible for the university. So someone else sums this all up. Godfrey says, this failing of 25,000 students is actually good news in Liberia. And Dorber, I'll pose that to you. Could this be good news?
Well, you know, this is like bittersweet, because it gives you an opportunity to actually see the problem for what it really is. I mean, all along, the problem has been dressed up, and so we couldn't see it. I mean, my take is that looking at the average performance and the standard deviation of this year's exam and compared to last year, the performances were the same. But because it was sugar-coated last year, so we didn't get to see the problem. I suspect if we had done this the year before, we would have seen the problem then. So it is good that we're beginning to see now the problem for what it really is. It is sad news because we're talking about the future of 25,000 of our young people. And for me, I mean, someone mentioned earlier during the program that this is a very big issue. For me, I see it as a security issue. I mean, this is now the time for us to think out of the box. What can we do for these 25,000 plus students who will not be going to university this year? I mean, what can we do to work with them so that we can up their capacity so that next time when they attempt the exams, they can be able to do better? These are the things we need to be looking at. But for this one, I think it's good that we see the problem for what it really is so that we call a spade, and let's see how we can find a solution to the real problems that we have.
So you're getting a lot of agreement there from Rob Tell and from other members of our guest lineup, Dobo. So here's what's really interesting for Liberia is your circumstances, as Malika was saying, and our online community saying, they're not unusual. We've had other parts of the world and other parts of Africa had child soldiers. They have civil war and conflict. Schools have been decimated. Not much in the way of electricity, not much in the way of internet. So the world can be looking at Liberia to see where you go to next and how you fix it. So let's be really positive here and start with James. What do you want from your education in Liberia? What do you need, James?
Well, I do agree with Rocktail that one of the priorities of Liberia or Liberian is education, followed by health and electric power. But again, I like to say most of the challenges we face in our educational system should be a shared responsibility. The government has a role to play. The students themselves have a role to play. The institution which the students come from have a role to play too. So I think it should be a shared responsibility, and when responsibilities are distributed equally, then we can see ourselves moving forward. Okay. But if we are just to say one party should be held liable for the mass failure in institutions here, then I think we will not be doing justice. We will not be doing what I think is right for us. But I think it should be a shared responsibility. The parents should be very harsh on the children to study. The students themselves should know that they should study. I mean, the administrators should not have instructors who are in classroom requesting bribe. It will interest you. It will interest you to know that there are some institutions here. You have instructors telling you, after this period of test, I need $10 US, I need $25 in order to get A. Now, it means, I mean, it's a kind of situation that some of us who are students are faced with. Now, we are also faced with a capacity problem. I was touring the facility of the university today when I came on this campus, and I visited most of the classes. I saw students, I mean, hanging to the window to copy notes.
Okay, so James, so you've set out beautifully the challenges. We really understand the challenges. I've been to your university. I've seen the bullet holes. I've seen the toilets that don't work. I get it. But what I want to know is, if we come back to you in 5 years' time, what will you be? What will you be doing?
You said that again. I didn't get you.
Yeah, if we check back in with you in 5 years' time, what will you be doing?
Well, in 5 years, period, I hope to see a very vibrant educational system, because the situation has been noticed already. Our president has said that the system is a mess. So I think there is a work ongoing already to have the system put into place.
All right, so James Colley, what will you be? Right now you're a remedial student at the University of Liberia. What will you be in 5 years' time, James?
In 5 years period, I hope to be a graduate.
All right, we hope that for you too. We hope that for you too. Okay, this is going to be hard for our guests, but I'm going to ask you with one line to leave us with from this conversation. What's your takeaway, Robtel?
My takeaway is I've got a personal responsibility to come back to Liberia and help reform and help to change the paradigm so that students are not failing entrance exams, that they're doing well and they're graduating and they are becoming productive members of society. So I take this as a personal call to go back to Liberia when I'm done with my PhD and to make a contribution in whatever way, voluntarily, because I think
Robtel, you know you're over your sentence, right, Miss PhD researcher? Finish your sentence. Very nice.
I've got a personal responsibility to go back and change the system.
Michael, what is your one-line thought you want to leave us with, please?
I just want to say our neighboring countries, when you score in Division 3, you are not a college material. But we are working with our students because of our misfortune. So we will encourage the examiners to next time know what student population the exam is given to.
This sentence is running on, Michael.
1 or Division 2. Some should go. Some should go to TVET.
I need you to take the entrance exam so we all know what a sentence is. Michael, thank you. Give us your closing thought, one last piece of thought. Do you have it? I want you to finish the sentence. There you go. Okay, Dobojala, exam proctor, I know you can leave us with a single sentence that's going to give us a closing thought. You administered this entrance exam. It became a national story, an international story. What's the thought you want to leave us with, Dobo?
Well, I want to admonish everyone to work harder. I want to particularly challenge the schools that are feeding these high school leavers, that they need to work hard with their students so that next time we can see better results. I also want to admonish the university that what they have started, they should continue, but then also work with the schools and let them know where their weaknesses are and let this thing work as a system.
Okay.
So that together we can work with the young people to make our country better.
We'll be checking in. We really want to hope that the future of Liberia is going to be well-educated future and the young people have a future in university, in college, wherever they decide to go. Our online community, Malika, at the beginning of this conversation, they couldn't quite believe that 25,000 students could fail their university entrance exam. How are they now with the way that we've conducted the show?
Well, I think some of the disbelief has gone, but what I was just searching for now was a positive tweet to leave us off on a positive note, and I couldn't find one.
Right.
Conversation will continue, of course, so there's still hope.
Online at stream.aljazeera.com. Now, on Tuesday, as part of Al Jazeera's in-depth look at India, we discuss the largest welfare system in the world. How large? Well, the Food Security Bill will ensure that almost 800 million people will have food virtually for nothing. But it's controversial, and we'll find out why on Tuesday's AJ Stream. In the meantime, you'll find Malika, myself, and the whole team online at stream.aljazeera.com. Thanks for watching. Take care.